testing my aging rate with the biological age test of Longevity Germany. So I put in my age, which is 29. I select my gender, which is male, at least I think so. Then I click on next, average sleep hours per night, which is something I don't know. So I take a look at my sleep data from Samsung Health. And here, if I click on trends, I can select the last 12 months. So this is a rolling average, and then it's 6 hours and 50 minutes. That's at least what the Galaxy Watch 6 tracked for me. But since this is probably better than any guess, I then enter this. So because it's more conservative to take the 6.5, or is it even 6.5? Yeah, 6 hours and 50 is less than 7, so I make the conservative input of 6.5. Exercise days per week in the past 6 to 12 months was for me maybe on average 5, let's say. And I click on next. Okay. How often do you drink, smoke? Lifestyle factors. Poor diet quality. Mostly ultra processed foods. Okay, think about what you eat most days over the last what you ate most days, it should be, I think, over the past 6 to 12 months. Good, balanced with room for improvement, I would say so. It's not minimally processed, but I don't think the procession, or rather how processed a food is necessarily the best variable to determine whether something is in the long term good. But of course, one needs to have variables. So saying how much processed. So basically, the protein powder I consume is probably a little processed, but compared to, let's say, a cheeseburger, it might be more beneficial in the long term. So I here click on maybe good, because on Christmas, for example, I also ate a couple of cakes, not cakes, but cookies. Smoking status, never, is not entirely true. I did smoke a little bit, like 5 times in my life, but I'm not a former smoker, so it forces me to select one of these simplified options, which kind of put me in a spot where I don't want to be, because I don't want to lie and say I never smoked, but I think this is more useful compared to former. How often do you drink alcohol? I used to drink alcohol basically in my teens, beginning maybe from age 15 to then age 22, 23, 24, and then I quit. So the question here might also be more a rolling average question, or might be more useful as a rolling average question. How often do you drink alcohol? Because currently I don't drink, so maybe I just take the average of the last years, which means that I accidentally, I think, consumed some alcohol because I mixed up a drink at a party. So I select the less than once per month option. Of course, now actually it would be more close to never don't drink, but that's also, again, an absolute statement, which is, again, for me, not true. So I click on next. Okay, what else? Self-reported stress and BMI are used as rough proxies. Stress level is moderate, I would say. I am often stressed, but I think stress is a useful adaptation. Of course, it might be not the most useful long-term health adaptation, but in the short term, it gets things done, at least for me. So I even do cold exposure, room temperature cold exposure, one could say. So currently it's around 12 degrees Celsius or 14 degrees Celsius in here, and it's winter, and I have the radiators on a very low level because this seems to increase how alert I am. Now, body mass index, weight. Here I again take the rolling average of the last year because I think this is a more useful metric compared to just having one sample. So here I go to Garmin because I do use a Garmin Index S2, and I have the average calculated here for the remaining, not for the remaining, but for the last 12 months. And because my weight seems to fluctuate seasonally, usually in around September, October, it begins to go up, as you can see kind of in this graph. And then if I scroll back, it's not almost identical, but it's a very similar trend. And now here the trend is not as pronounced because I don't have the data in here, because Garmin seems to not accept input data that much from other apps. So I take the average of the last year, which is 78.9, and then I enter this 78.9. Now, my height is ranging from 181 in the evening, I guess, to 183 point something in the ideal morning if I slept for a couple of days in a row very well. So I enter 183, as most people, if they are asked for their height, probably, 183 centimeters. 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 183 centi tell others their peak height. And so this is my peak height. Now, okay, how socially active are you? Very isolated, somewhat isolated. I have occasional contact, but limited and meaningful connection. Moderately active. Of course, now this is quite personal, but I would just say I'm moderately active. Bi-weekly calls with friends. I don't have bi-weekly calls with friends, but I also don't think I should have bi-weekly calls with friends, because often I think that real-life interaction is actually more useful, and the latency in social interaction on the phone is just very high, or still. So often if you make a joke and it's like half a second difference in between your delivery and when they are receiving it, and then there is this disconnect. So I just select the middle option, as one should do in any quiz. So I click on next. What's a second opinion? Okay, important context, research on adults. Okay, is this already the end? Oh, it's here. Okay, you're slowing down time. Your lifestyle choices are effectively suppressing cellular aging. Effectively. Really effectively, and maybe also efficiently. Estimated aging rate is 0.93, which is a little bit unlike the Insight Tracker age test I did, for which I could also calculate the aging rate. But it seems they now locked up previous tests, because I'm no longer subscribed to Insight Tracker, because I thought the development of the app was rather poorly done, and so I cannot access this any longer. But it was like 35 or 39 for the blood age. My chronological age is 29. Based on lifestyle factors, your estimated biological pace is 0.93 years per calendar year. One has to say, or admit, that Brian Johnson here did a large portion of the publication work, but of publicizing. I lack the right word in English. Basically, he made this, popularizing is the right term. He popularized all of this aging and pace of aging and rate of aging, and then I also thought about this. And so now you have Longevity Germany, which is actually a acquaintance of mine. So basically, one of these, I already was at one of their events, and there I met the founder. And so I took this test because I thought it was interesting, because I visited the website as we reconnected on Instagram. And so I thought this would be fun. And also I tried a couple of tests like this in the past already. And I once used a Chinese company which also calculated my blood age. And then, of course, Insight Tracker, but Insight Tracker costs around, depending on which subscription one has, so basically on which discount one gets the yearly subscription at, it costs in between maybe 60 euros to 130 euros or something like this. And so having a calculator like this, obviously, is a first step, but of course in the long term it would make more sense to have this calculator connected to all the input one has. So maybe this could be MyFitnessPal, this could be a Garmin watch, this could be Samsung Health, where one then would have the biological age updated again and again. And this is also what some platforms seem to now try to implement already. So in Garmin, now that's the final age, and other platforms are already kind of attempting something like this, because it seems to make sense to not have one time-stamped age, but to have this connected to fitness services and then update this age over time, obviously, because then one can see with which input the output changes, in this case reduces, because one ideally wants a lower pace of aging. Garmin, for example, already has the fitness age, which is basically connecting the biometric data from my watch to this platform, and then it outputs a fitness age. Samsung seems to also go into this direction, at least a little bit, with their AGEs index, and also I think it's mostly the AGEs index as of now. But I cannot track them because I don't have one of the newer Galaxy watches. I do have a Galaxy Watch 6. And of course, Whoop introduced their health span feature, which I think in terms of the implementation of this, what Brian Johnson basically popularized, is currently kind of the best thing, the best implementation. Even though, of course, with Whoop, you cannot really do anything apart from tracking your biometric data, because you cannot really track activities properly. If you go out for a run, you don't have GPS, you need to carry your phone, but I don't want to carry my phone if I go for a run to have GPS. So it seems that the Whoop is not that useful. It would be better, I guess, if the metrics that are in Whoop would be available also in my Garmin watch. But currently in Garmin, there are a couple of features that are lacking compared to Whoop, like a health span feature that actually looks nice.